Okay everyone, now we will be using aggregate functions. Now you can calculate statistical information such as totals or averages on our records that are displayed in our table data sheet or selected by a query. To do this, we are going to be using these access aggregate functions. And the aggregate functions just perform arithmetic operations on the selected records in the database. We could use average, count, maximum, which is the highest field values for the selected records, minimum, which is the lowest field values for the selected records. We can use sum. So we have a lot of options here. Let's go ahead and start working with some of those now. We are going to choose to display the total amount of all the invoices in our billing table. So let's go ahead and open up our billing table in the datasheet view. We'll close our navigation pane. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into the make sure our home tab is displayed, which it is, and we're going to, in our records group, so if you look at our records group here, you will see we have a totals button available to us. Go ahead and click that, and Access adds a new row with a label total to the bottom of our sheet here. You can see that listed right there. So let's scroll to the bottom and we will view, there we go, we will view what's listed here. So when we do this, we want to make sure that we display the sum of all the values in our invoice amount field. So click the invoice amount column here. We're just going to click right down here in our total rows to make that active. So once that is active, you see that we have an arrow that appears here on our left side inner field. Let's click the arrow to display the menu of the aggregate functions we have available to us. And Access knows what we're working with here. So these are only a menu of aggregate functions for a currency field setup. So for our choice, we're going to click the sum option here. And Access is going to add all the values in the invoice amount column and display a total for us in our total row for the column. So let's go ahead and click sum now. And you see that we have a value of $20,603. Now let's say somebody changes their mind, they don't want to see that, they don't want to list that. We can toggle this up here in our records group. We can simply click totals again, and that has been removed. So let's go ahead and close our billing table and not save any changes. And we are done working with that aggregate function. Let's create a new query and work with some different aggregate functions. We're going to calculate the minimum of all of our invoice amounts. So let's create that new query by going to create, and we will do our query design, and we're going to add our billing table. We will close that. Obviously, we want to see all of these fields. And of course, my mouse is having a little difficulty here. There we go, got it. Now let's add our field. We're going to add invoice amount. And we're going to double click this 3 different times to add 3 copies of the field to our design grid. And of course we have a reason for doing this. Now we're going to select an aggregate function for each of these fields. So let's go ahead and in our design tab, we're going to look at our show hide group. And then we're going to go ahead and click totals. You see that shows up down here as a completely new row. Now for these, we're going to use 3 different aggregate functions. We're going to use minimum, average, and max. Let's go ahead and set those now. So if we go to our total, we are going to change our total to min. So we just grab over here and we're going to select min. Second one, we're going to select average. And our last one, we'll select the maximum value. Alright, now we want to change our field box here. So we're going to change to the top left over here. Invoice amount. We're going to put minimum invoice amount. And then make sure you have a colon right there next to it. So you should now see that that says minimum invoice amount. We're going to do the same thing for our average and maximum as well. So make sure you put average invoice colon, or actually let's do maximum invoice amount, average invoice amount, and maximum invoice amount followed by a colon before the invoice amount label there. And as you're doing these, you can use best fit down here and by making those resize columns. So make sure you can just drag these around just to resize those columns so you can see the whole value that you've put in there in the fields. And then of course when we have these done, we want to make sure that we change the caption that's going to be displayed by going up to our invoice. Minimum invoice amount, we're going to select property sheet, and the caption we want to show is minimum invoice amount. Then we're going to do the same thing for average and maximum. And once you've entered all of your captions, you can close your property sheet. And we will go ahead and run our query and see what Access displays. Access should only display one record containing the 3 aggregate function results. So let's go ahead and run that now. And we do have a minimum, average, and maximum result showing for our aggregate functions. With our minimum invoice amount being $30, we want to apply best fit so we can actually see those captions we created. We could select this and just pick one and double click that, and that'll apply best fit to all of our columns. We have an average invoice amount of $101.49 and a maximum invoice amount, the highest valued maximum invoice of $450. Well, that is a great query to keep, so we're going to save that and we're going to call that invoice amount statistics. So we are going to save, give it that name, invoice amount statistics, and hit OK.